that certainly I think has its sights set that high this year. And if I were to tell you right now we lived in a world in which Patrick Mahomes was not eligible, would anyone at this table right now pick Russell Wilson to be the leading candidate for MVP of the league?
Sure. When you look at those yards per attempt, completion percentage, I mean, he's pushing. These are not dink and dunk passes where guys are then getting catch and run yards. Russell's pushing the ball down the field, and he's doing it a lot of times without optimal protection. And the running game is not where it was back in the beast mode days. So he's doing a lot of this stuff simply off of his own skill level and his own just extraordinary talent. I mean, it reeks of MVP, with no question about it.
Mark, let's expand on the point we made during the highlight, which is the rarity that Russell Wilson throws a pass that looks like it's on schedule. He's running around and making plays out of nothing out there.
If it's not quick game, meaning catch the ball in the gun, one step, and the ball's out, if it's drop back or if it's play action, he is on the move. Everything's off schedule, and you can't get your hands, or you just can't get him to the ground. Everybody touches him, but nobody can bring him. They can't corral him, and it's making it tough on the defense. How are you going to cover somebody for 6 seconds?
Well, you want to know why everyone's so hard on Jared Goff and why everyone's so hard on Dak? Because when you pay your quarterback franchise money and he becomes the highest paid player at his position, you can't pay everybody else. So you know what he has to do? He has to make up for a bad offensive line at times. He has to make up for a lack of a running game. He has to buy time and find receivers down the field and make those plays. And when Seattle transitioned a couple years ago from a defense and a team that plays defense and runs the ball, it all went on Russ. And you saw last night what he was able to do. He saddled up and rode his team to victory.
I'm just going to say this interestingly. You brought up Jared Goff. The past 2 weeks, the kid, although he's thrown 117 passes, he's been lights out.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, he's done pretty well. This defense is what is letting down that football team.
Yeah, I want to get to the Rams in just a second, but as far as Wilson is concerned, when you got a guy running around back there like that and he can make the throw running right, he can make the throw running left, what are you doing with him defensively?
You're trying to limit one way or the other. So what we would do when we played against the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, we would make sure that we know he's going one way. So we're going to flush with three defensive linemen, flush him out to the left or flush him out to the right. So at least now we can defend that half of the field, because it's too hard for a guy like Russell Wilson to sit there and continue to scramble and extend. Him, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, those guys are much more comfortable when they're outside of the pocket, when they're extending the down, and it makes it too hard for the defense. So we make sure to flush him out.
He's just playing on another level right now for a guy who has been an upper echelon quarterback for a long time. He's taken it to a new place. Now let me talk about the Rams, and let's talk about Jared Goff. Sort of an up and down night for Los Angeles last night. Goff threw for 395 yards and a touchdown. He did have a turnover for the 5th straight game, so that's obviously a problem they need to clean up. But they're certainly asking a lot of him. Todd Gurley, not a really busy night. Now, he did have his 15th career game with multiple rushing touchdowns. That passes Eric Dickerson for the most in Rams history, but he's still not been the workhorse, and the defense gave up 30 points after giving up 55 to the Bucs on Sunday. So that's 85 points they've allowed in the last 2 games at a time where Goff, and we'll say it again, has thrown 117 passes in the last 2 games.
Yeah, but it doesn't start with Goff. It starts with Gurley. It starts with the running game and the offensive line. And I see, 1, the offensive line not as good as they were. 2, I don't see the same Todd Gurley that I saw at Georgia when he put his foot in the ground and he hit the hole. You were like, man, when he came out in the draft, it was Todd Gurley running back and then all the other running backs. He was clearly the best running back.
So why?
At the time.
Is this the way the game is being dictated to them, or is something wrong?
Well, no. I saw that McVay and the offense put an effort to give him the ball early. I don't think that they saw the production that they were hoping for from Todd Gurley, so they go to the passing game. The passing game is working. It's effective. Goff is doing a great job, so they continue with it. And unfortunately, as the game goes on, it's easy for us to sit here in a room watching and saying, oh, you should run the ball more. It goes too fast when you get in the rhythm.
In the first half, they ran the ball pretty well. 9 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown. The problem is they kind of went away from that, and really his only carry in the second half of significance was the touchdown. Outside, they got stymied. Their offensive line wasn't opening up holes, and this team is starting to remind me of the Saints from a couple years ago when Drew Brees would go throw for 5,000 yards. They'd run the ball okay. They weren't playing defense, and they were putting it all on their quarterback. And it's not a winning recipe. It looks great for Jared Goff in the box score, but it doesn't translate to wins. It's not about numbers. It's about letters, and the W's are what you want.
So let's sort of wrap up this conversation with that thought. Jared Goff, he's got the huge contract. You just made the point. You need to be able to sort of ride your quarterback to wins when you have to, and Russell Wilson has proven he can do that. Do you think Jared Goff can develop, is developed into a guy who can lead this team deep into the playoffs this year with its flaws?
I think he can do his part. But, see, the defense right now is so suspect. If they do not turn it around. Look, Jameis Winston absolutely carved this defense apart. Wade Phillips is going to have to do his part to get the secondary to play much better, challenge people to line of scrimmage much more. Sean McVay is going to have to say, hey, look, even if I'm averaging 3-4 yards a pop and I'm not breaking the 15, 20-yard plays, it's still going to benefit Jared to run this football because play action, you will then create that natural separation between second and third level more so.
Agree.
But the offensive line right now, look, anytime they get stuffed for a negative run, play callers go, well, throw that one out. Throw that one out.
And let's not forget, by running the ball, you control the clock.
Exactly.
You keep that defense that's getting a little bit older, you keep them off the field. So they're
They were on the
fresh.
field a lot.
Clock management is
They were on the
key.
field a lot last night, and they were on the field for long plays.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're running all over the field trying to chase down the receiver that Russ is finding.
Which is
on
the
schedule.
Yeah.
A quick final thought on that, because whether they're trying to preserve Gurley for later in the season, which I've heard suggested,
No.
or whatever reason, you don't buy that.
No.
I
I
don't
mean-
buy that at all. No.
It came out running.
Something's
Watching
wrong with
Gurley-
him then. You cannot give that guy as few touches as he's getting.
Correct. Something is wrong with Gurley and the offensive line. And I'm not going to speculate injuries because they're not talking about injuries. But when I watch Gurley make cuts and hit the hole, it is not the same effort, explosion that he's had before in the past.
Okay, I have to run here. We have so much stuff going on this Football Friday. We have a great player who looks like he's about to get traded. And that player is Vikings receiver Stephon Diggs. He was back at practice yesterday. That was a day after his absence from practice, fueled speculation that he wants to be traded. And so then he meets with the media. And I tell you what, he did not shut down the trade talk. Listen to this.
I feel like there's truth to all rumors, you know? I mean, no matter how you dress it up, I won't be saying nothing on it. I won't be speaking on it at all. But there is truth to all rumors, I guess.
Have you asked for a trade?
I haven't communicated anything. More so, the conversation I have has only been about team and trying to have success on the field. I can't sit up here and act like everything is okay, because it's obviously not. But what I can say is, at this point, just trying to work through it.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom of what's going on here. Stephon Diggs, at the end of the day, is upset because he's a genuinely great receiver on a team where they are running the football and playing defense.
Yeah.
And look, we can beat around the bush if we want to, but at the end of the day, the finger's going to get pointed at the quarterback they gave a fortune of money to. What are we seeing right now from Kirk Cousins?
We're watching Kirk Cousins revert back to when he was a rookie. He's missing reads, he's inaccurate, and frankly, that's the reason that they're going to miss the playoffs. When you talk about simple play action passes back to the quarterback, and then as soon as he turns back around, he should see the single high safety and then man by Clinton Diggs. So that tells you, run the over route, and what frees up is Thielen right here on this dig route. Instead, he's automatically predetermining the throw to the running back. He missed a 20-yard gain. That is something you can't do as an $84 million quarterback. Then to start the game, script the first 15 plays, you take your shot, especially on a great defense. You don't get too many shots like this. So Kirk Cousins, nothing but time. This is 7-on-7. You cannot miss this throw. Look at this. Stephon Diggs is saying touchdown.
Yeah.
That should be a touchdown. Any quarterback should make that with the time he had. If that's going to continue to happen, Kirk Cousins and Minnesota, they're going to miss the playoffs, and it's going to be because of the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Look, there was a lot of debate when he went there initially anyway about whether or not he actually was going to be the difference between he and Case Keenum when Case couldn't get him over the hump in the NFC Championship against the Eagles.
Yep.
Many people in Washington, many people who watch football who are very astute as far as quarterback play said, this guy is a manager. He is not a difference maker. He's not going to elevate other people. And as a matter of fact, you're seeing him have the opposite effect, both on the players and the coaches' mentality up there.
And speaking of the psychology of this, Mark, I want to ask you a question, because we had Kirk Cousins this week talk about he was apologizing to Adam Thielen, and there was a lot of attention here and other places. He says he's not listening to the criticism and all that sort of thing. But when it's coming from inside, like when his receivers are obviously frustrated with him, if you're the quarterback and your receivers are so frustrated that you have to apologize to one publicly and the other guy wants to be traded, how does the quarterback rectify that?
The optics look bad. What they need is a coming out party. What they need is a game where he throws for 350 yards and they both get a couple touchdowns. Is that likely with the way they've kind of shifted their system now? I don't necessarily see that happening. But Kirk is a good player. got that big contract, it was a timing thing, right? He was the best available guy at that time.
Right.
So when you sign that big deal, people want the Jared Goff numbers. They want the special plays from Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily Kirk's game.
Well, so let's just be clear about what we're talking about. They are coaching the game like they don't have the confidence in him, right? You're seeing that.
No,
not just. I think there's.
So that's not what's happening.
Okay.
Zimmer wants to run the ball first. His recipe has always been defense and run the ball. They brought Kirk Cousins in and said, you now have to open up your offense. And he said, this is not what I do. When you guys hired me as a head coach, you brought me in to run the ball, play good defense, and have a game man.
So when you hear that, you know what this sounds like once again? This is, again, how to screw up player personnel acquisition.
Right. Yes.
Okay?
Exactly.
When you're not on the same page. Because, look, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case in Minnesota, but let's just look at this from the outside in. Sometimes personnel people and or ownership look at players on other football teams and they watch your show and they watch primetime and they go, I want that guy on my team because look at the plays that he's making there. But they don't bother to philosophically marry that up with, hey, coach, how do you want to do things? Because quite honestly, if the coach starts talking to them, they don't really understand what he's saying
what
anyway.
Is the recipe
they
for
just see the highlights.
Yeah.
So they go, I'm going to get that.
I'll give you the contrast right here. Brian Schottenheimer. He was my coordinator.
Right.
Did I do the same thing that Russell Wilson does? No, that wasn't my game.
Right.
He's adapted his system to his players. Some coaches want the control. If I'm going to cook you dinner, I want to go get the ingredients. But if that's not the case, that's not the case. You got to put your players in the best position based on their ability. Yeah. It's not happening there.
So at the end of the day, is Stephon Diggs going to get traded? And if so, what's someone going to give up for him? If Amari Cooper fetched a #1 pick of a first-round draft pick, is Stephon Diggs worth that?
Yeah, I could see someone doing that for him. Look, this is a guy who's low 4.40, tremendous run after the catch skills, and he can play all three positions. He can play the Z, X, or the E. He can play wherever you want him to. So it all depends upon what the need is. Look, in Washington right now, you think Dwayne Haskins or any other quarterback wouldn't say, we'd like to see 14 on our football team? Absolutely. You absolutely would. Here's the thing, though. Will ownership up there, will the people who are high up in the power structure say, hey, look, we're going to shut this down because we're not stupid?
They're going to shut it down.
We can't let